Hey everyone, this is Tom, otherwise known as Scary Spikes, and welcome to another Star Citizen video. In today's video, we'll be talking about the Aegis dynamics of Vanguard Harbinger, which is half heavy fighter and half bomber. A very great aircraft indeed, but of course before we get started, just a few special things, including a shout out, and this week's shout out is going to Lamfada. Lamfada is one of our relatively new members, but already a VIP Gold contributor, and a very energetic, enthusiastic, and awesome person to be around. Lamfada is also our new DM of Commerce, helping to teach new members in our community about trading and everything revolving trading, and I just wanted to take a moment to thank him for his contributions, both financial as well as his time towards the community. So thank you, Lamfada, for being a VIP Gold contributor and for everything that you do for our community. Also, make sure to join us on stream Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 PM Eastern over on Twitch, as well as our amazing Discord community, the links for which will be down in the description below. Finally, if you enjoyed this video and you found it helpful, please make sure to let me know by leaving a like, subscribing if you're new, and ringing the bell so that you never miss a video in the future. With all those things out of the way, let's get started with this video. The Harbinger can be picked up on the RSI store from one of the two main events that happen throughout the year, including the recently passed Invictus Week, which happens at the end of May, and the IAE, the Interstellar Aerospace Expo, which happens during November. First of all, we're going to be taking a look outside the ship and then inside the ship, followed by a tour of all the different modules and weapons that I would recommend, and the links for those will be down in the description, linking to Urkel Games loadouts, both for my recommendations as well as the stock loadout for the ship. Without further ado, let's get stuck in. So this huge giant pointy thing out here, giggity, is the main weapon. Now this can be a size 5 weapon if you decide to use a fixed mount, meaning that it is fixed directly to the hull of the ship, meaning that you basically use the ship to aim the weapon, or you can have this gimbaled as well, although that will reduce the size of the weapon by 1, leaving you with a size 4 weapon, which is still very sizable and very powerful. This one here is the size 5 Galderine 557 laser repeater, and it is an absolute beast. Now mounted on the front here, we also have a number of different hardpoints here, and these are proprietary to the Vanguard series of ships. These cannot be gimbaled, so they are stuck in the fixed position, but you can choose a number of different types, including laser, distortion, and ballistic weapons. In this case, we have the distortion repeaters, which are really nice for close quarters combat. Moving around the bottom of the ship here, we can see that we have a very nicely done front landing bay and the typical tricycle layout that we see on many small to medium-sized ships. We have the front layout here in a 4-wheel configuration, and then the rear layouts are very, very unique indeed. These are actually tracked landing gear here on the port as well as the starboard side of the ship. Now this ship has wings that come out when you lift up the landing gear, as you can see here. This entire wing over here actually folds out to sort of more of an outwardly direction to resemble the looks of more of a real true-to-life plane when it's in atmosphere. That really does help quite a bit, but it's also just really quite nice to see. That being said, we also have the canopy over here. Unfortunately, we're not able to access the canopy from the outside. We do have to get into the ship from the back ramp, which we'll see in just a little bit. Really do like the aesthetics of the ship here as well, especially the turbine style engines. They've got this like really old school look to them. The paint job is also quite nice, with yellow as an accent color, with mostly grays and olive drab greens all around. Moving towards the rear of the ship here, we'll notice some of the fins as well as the exhausts for the main engines. And of course, we do have our main access ramp, which we'll check out in just a moment. We move over to the starboard side of the ship. We can see another exhaust vent here for the other engine, as well as a few more fins to help stabilize that in atmospheric flight. And then of course we have the other wing, and then pretty much everything is the same as on the port side, including the engine and all the inlets and everything like that. It is also fair to note that there are a number of different kinds of missile loadouts that you can have on this ship. So I'm more of a long range fighter, and for my personal preferences, I like to have size 3 missiles, as they can lock on within about 10 kilometers, and they have a fuse of about 7.5 kilometers. You can have them mounted under the fuselage. So here I have 2, and here is another 2, and there are also some missiles and torpedoes in the top racks in the ship, which we'll have a look at in just a second. Alright, so let's have a look inside the ship, and then we'll talk about my recommendations for how to outfit it. At the very back of the ship here, we can see that we have our main ramp, and there is a pseudo airlock with a door that you can close and open here to create sort of a pressurized zone here in the back of the ship. It's not really how it works, but hey, you can RP to your heart's content. If you look in the back here, you can see that we have our quantum drive, so this is what's going to allow us to travel between different parts of a system very quickly. And then of course, moving forward, we have the main area of the ship. So let's go ahead and have a look here in a circular motion. The very first thing is this nice storage locker here. I'm sure you can store a number of different things in here, although there's not really any racks or anything like that. So hopefully that is something that will be fleshed out a little bit later on. We have a washroom here, and this is a pretty decently sized washroom, albeit a little small. We do have a toilet that you can pull out here, as well as a shower. Hot and cold there, obviously. And looks like a pretty decent shower unit here with a bar to hang onto and a non-slip surface on the bottom, so very well thought out so far. We also have a first aid kit over here, as well as a few small little shelves here for some basic amenities like probably your toothpaste or deodorant or whatever. And then you also have your basic sink, as well as your mirror. And that's pretty much it for the washroom. We'll go ahead and leave the washroom and then just have a little chat about these beds. Now, there's 2 beds here, one of course for yourself and the other one for your gunner, which can be seated in the turret that has 2 size 2 weapons. Again, more on those in just a little bit. Moving around to the other side of the ship, we can see that we have a very fearsome looking size 5 stalker torpedo. There's 3 of these available on the Harbinger by default, and unfortunately you can't really change the size of torpedo racks, so you're pretty much stuck with the size 5s, but I'll show you a little bit later on. You can definitely change some of the other missiles, which is really nice. We have this panel over here. If you don't know what this is, then you're in the same boat as me, so if you happen to know what it is, please make sure to let me know in the comments below. That being said, I don't believe that this is actually functional at this point. It looks to be like a small little engineering station, or maybe like a weapon master station to help manage the weapons. In any case, it's not currently properly functional. And we have some storage down here which doesn't open, as well as up here, and then of course here we also have our gun rack. So this is really quite nice. It is only one-sided, unfortunately, but it has enough space for 4 pretty decent sized, like rifle sized weapons, so that's good to know. Closing that, we can move a little bit forward here, and we do have a little secret cubby down here, which maybe not a lot of folks know about. I'm not really quite sure what's down here, and I'm not able to turn on my flashlight to see, but it looks like there is just a bit of an open area here for storage. Although from what I remember, at some point before, there may have been a component down here. So we have also some components over here, and these are hidden behind these doors, which you can of course close. We have a power plant and a shield generator, as well as a little door here that opens up for some storage as well. On the other side of the ship, we have an identical setup here with a shield generator as well as a power plant, and again they hide behind these very well nicely placed covers. They seem to really blend very well into the rest of the ship, so it's probably very likely that you'll just overlook these, making your way to the front of the ship here in the cockpit. Over here we can see that we also have the pair of coolers, and in this case they are also very symmetrical, hiding behind these really nicely designed covers. And lastly, of course, then we just have our pilot seat. So let's take a moment to familiarize ourselves with the canopy and the cockpit here, and then we'll have a look at the outfitting of the ship. So having a look at the ship here at the very top, we can see that there's a lot of space for a lot of nice natural light to come through, which means that this is a very well lit cockpit. I really quite like it, actually. And we have a number of different things that we'll go over from the top to the bottom. So at the very top here, you can see that this is your enunciator panel. So you have things like any kind of issues with your power or weapon, your thrusters, your shields, proximity warnings for when you're about to hit something, your quantum failing, having a radar or missile lock, as well as your cooling failing. So all things that you want to keep an eye on, and not I don't imagine that any of these going off is going to make you have a good day. With that being said, the next thing, moving down, we have our HUD here, and as you can see, we can actually cycle through a number of different weapons here. So for now, I have this Harbinger set up for long range combat with 3 size 5 torpedoes and 8 size 3 missiles. Again, more on that in just a little bit. Moving down, we can see that we have a number of MFDs, 4 in total, and we also have a nice radar right in the middle. So again, very accessible and easy to see. And of course, just like any of the other MFDs, these are fully interactable and you can change them out to whatever you like. One important note is that I've noticed that there is a bug within the Harbinger, and I'm not sure if it's any of the other Vanguard ships, so let me know if you have the same issue. But after flying around a little bit, I found it almost impossible to interact with these menu buttons. Again, let me know if you continue to experience these issues. It may be a bug that could have been ironed out, but it's one that I've experienced in the past. We of course have our main stick here, and there's no ejection function in this ship as it is a unibody design. And of course, then we also have some controls over on the left and the right side of the stick, as well as on the right hand side here of the actual seat. Again, I really wish that they just removed these and just allowed the buttons to light up so that we can actually have finite control over our hands and click on the actual buttons. But I digress. I do believe that that might be something that might be coming later on, and let me know in the comments if you share my sentiment. That being said, that concludes rather the tour of the inside of the Aegis Vanguard Harbinger. Next, let's take a look at how I chose to outfit it, and the links for those will be included not just for my outfitting but also for the default, so you can play around with it. Those will be in the description below. Let's get into it. Okay, so here we are in the Vehicle Loadout Manager. Again, you can access this by pressing F1 and going to the second tab here at the very bottom of the screen. We're going to go over the propulsion, then the systems, then the weaponry. We're going to go back to the missiles in the MISC panel here. So let's get started with that. First and foremost is the Quantum Drive. Now for the Quantum Drive, this is a size 2 drive, and you can put a number of different drives here. And if you don't know much about all of the different types of components that you can put into your ship, I would very much recommend clicking on the top right hand corner of the screen now to watch the video to teach you all about the different types of ship components, what they do, what all the different classes and everything mean, so that you can get a better understanding when watching this section of the video. So we are currently using the XL1. That is a grade A military class drive. Now for general purpose, this is really good. It's very fast, although it is quite fuel hungry. If you don't have too much money, I would definitely recommend getting a crossfield, which we can't see here unfortunately because our ship is currently locked from editing as we are currently flying it. That being said, I would recommend the crossfield. You can reference that in the Urkel Games link that I'll link in the description below. The crossfield is a very good day-to-day drive. It's sufficiently fast, it doesn't go through too much fuel too quickly, and it gets you to where you need to go quite reasonably. Very well done drive. It's honestly just a good, day-to-day beater. Now there is also the grade A stealth drive, and I'm not sure if that's the Spectre or the Spicule. One of the two, again, details in the description, but those are very good if you're going to be staying within a subsystem. What do I mean by subsystem? Well, if we have a look at the map here, I'll show you exactly what I mean. So a subsystem is, for example, Crusader or Hurston or Microtech. So it involves basically the planet as well as some of the auxiliary stations that are near the planetary subsystem, and then mostly speaking just within the orbital lines of the actual subsystem itself. So for example, if we look at Hurston, we have, Magda, Ariel, Aberdeen, and Ida, or yes, Ida. So this is what I refer to when I say subsystem. And the important thing to note is that the stealth drives are actually really good at traveling very quickly within short distances that can be found within a subsystem like this. For example, if you want to travel And if you're doing bounty hunting, for example, inside of the Hurston subsystem here, traveling between Hurston as well as all the different moons, relatively short distance, takes a very short amount of time, but the stealth drives are exceptionally good at that because they have some of the best acceleration from all of the drives available for you. Now, if you're looking for more of a long distance travel, that's where the XL1 is really good. It does burn through more fuel, but it'll get you from Hurston to Microtech, for example, in record amounts of time. Again, you'll be going through quite a lot more fuel, but you'll be getting there quite quickly. I would say the Crossfield is a little bit in the middle of the two. It's not the fastest, it's not, you know, the most fuel hungry, but it's a very decent day-to-day drive. So that's what I mean when I say subsystem, and for that, I would definitely recommend the Stealth. For regular day-to-day stuff, the Crossfield, and then of course for the just the fastest drive that you can possibly get, I would definitely recommend to go with the XL1, as it's honestly my favorite for size 2. Alright, let's go ahead and move on to the systems. So the systems comprise of usually coolers, power plants, and shield generators, and this ship has 2 of each, which is really quite nice, especially for a medium-sized ship like this. So first thing we're going to talk about are the snowpacks, which are the coolers. Now, you don't have to pick these up. They are very expensive, and if you want the best possible cooling, the snowpacks are definitely the way to go. However, the avalanches are just fine. They are the grade A military class, and they should be just fine for you. They don't provide quite as much cooling per second as the avalanches do, but they're also quite a bit cheaper, and it might be a bit more viable for your budget. Moving on to the power plants. Now, for the power plants, if you've seen any of my previous videos, you know that I love the JS series. It's never let me down. They've always been absolutely fantastic. I've never had a power plant failure or anything like that with these, and they do a sufficiently awesome job. That just sounds like an oxymoron, but in any case, I digress. They do a sufficiently fantastic job delivering power, and especially if you've got 2 of them, you really have nothing to worry about. So we're going to go with the JS 400s here. I wouldn't really recommend any alternatives, as these are very well priced and they also have very good performance. So the dollar per performance is actually quite good on these, and I would recommend them just pretty much for anybody. Moving on to the shields, there's definitely a few things to talk about here. Now, if you are very lucky and you own a ship like the Prowler or any other ship that has the Sucheron shields, those are the ones that absorb 100% of ballistic damage, I would definitely really recommend getting rid of the Rampart here and replacing it with a Sucheron, or even running 2 Sucherons if you feel like your regen rate is not really high enough. That being said, for just your general regular sort of middle-of-the-road run-of-the-mill build, I would definitely recommend going with a Rampart and an FR76. And the reason for this is because the Rampart provides a really good shield pool, whereas the FR76 provides very good shield regeneration. So pairing the two together usually results in really good shield performance overall. Again, of course, you don't want to just be getting yourself pelted by a hammerhead and expect the last. That being said, though, you'll get very decent shield pool as well as good regeneration with pairing these two together. If you find that you're very maneuverable and you would just prefer the regeneration, I would definitely go with 2 FR76s, and that should do you just fine as well. Now, moving on to the weaponry, there's a few different things here on the ship to keep in mind. Now, on the original or the standard loadout, I do believe you also get some size 2 missiles. I'm not a huge fan of that because I do like sniping quite a bit, especially when you have a size 5 Galderine laser repeater on the front of your ship hanging off your chin there. So in my personal preference and my playstyle, again, yours might change, I would very much recommend going with the 423 shield, or sorry, the 423 missile racks. And again, if you don't know what these mean, if you go back and watch my video on understanding ship components, it'll really explain a lot of that to you. And also, if you want to get some information about how to switch your different missiles while you're in flight, you can get information about that by watching my previous bounty hunting video, which will tell you how to map your keys to change all the different missile types if you want to have different missile sizes on your ship. Now, that being said, I have all of these set to 423s that'll have size 3 missiles on these. Then, of course, there's a proprietary launcher here as well for the size 5s. Moving down, we see that we have the CF220 or CF557, I'm sorry, laser repeater that's on the front of the ship. Now, again, this is going to be, hey, it disappeared. This is going to be a fixed weapon. If you wanted to change this to a gimbaled weapon, what you would do is you would go into this and unequip the weapon that you would have here. And in this slot, you would equip a size 5 gimbal, which would then give you another slot underneath here, which you can then click on and equip a size 4 weapon. Then that size 4 weapon would be using the gimbal for gimbal aim assist to assist you if you're a little bit of a newer pilot. But for me, I really like this because it has some excellent range, usually about 5.5 kilometers while moving forward, and usually just demolishes stuff before they even get into range. Now, as I said before, I have a number of other proprietary cannons over here. These are the distortion repeaters, and these are really good. So if you don't know what distortion repeaters are, basically what they do is they strip shields, but they do no actual hull damage to the enemy ship. What they can also do is they can also disable the ships by making their modules malfunction, like their shields or their power plants, which then basically, if that happens, it makes the enemy a sitting duck. So having a really nice big gun on the front, just pretend it's there, and having these is a really good combination, because if you can't snipe them and if they get too close, you can strip their shields and easily take them out with your size 5 weapon. That being said, I also have a pair of CF227 laser repeaters here, the Badgers, for the turret on the top here. Now again, it's only a size 2 weapon here on each side of the turret with 2 weapons in total, but it's definitely nice to have, and it adds a little bit of firepower either for point defense or for helping to manage against much smaller ships. Alright, so now going back, we're going to talk about our missiles very quickly, and this is what I chose to go with. So the Stalker 5s, incidentally, are actually very, very good missiles, very good torpedoes, I should say, but I would recommend being at speed when launching these, because they tend to be a little slow, especially being torpedoes, even though they are the smallest class of torpedoes that are available, the biggest being size 10 and size 9, if we're talking about what's actually in the game at the moment. So that being said, it is the smallest torpedo. It's going to be still a little bit slower and less maneuverable than some of your other missiles, like your size 3 missiles. But they are very, very good to use against larger targets like hammerheads and Valkyries and stuff like that when you are at speed. Also, the benefit of launching these at speed is that you basically increase their inertia. If you were to be standing still, of course, again, remember you're in the vacuum of space, you're going to be launching these at a particular speed. If your ship is moving at a given speed, you're basically adding that inertia to the weapons. You know, when the weapons fire, they're already moving at a certain speed, and then they can continue to accelerate, giving you a little bit more of a punch and a little bit more of a chance to hit your target. That being said, I would stick with the Stalkers. They're really quite good. And then with your size 3 weapons, if you decide to go with size 3 weapons, I would definitely recommend the Thunderbolts. The reason for this is because the Thunderbolts are not strike missiles, they are proximity missiles. And what that means is that as long as they're relatively close to the target, they can still explode and deal damage to the target, as opposed to having to do a direct hit in order to do any damage, like the strike missiles do. And the good thing about that is that if you have smaller targets that are a little bit harder to hit, they're a little bit more maneuverable, you might end up getting a few more hits with the Thunderbolts. The Arresters are also really good. They are a cross-section missile, and they are also size 3, so you can play around with those. If you choose to have size 2 or size 1 missiles by changing all the racks in the weaponry section here, then I would recommend the Strike Force missiles for the size 2 and the Spark missiles for the size 1, respectively. Well, that's going to do it for me, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so very much for making it until the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it helpful. And if you did, please let me know by leaving a like, subscribing if you're new, and ring the bell so that you never miss a video in the future. It really does help, and it lets me and YouTube know that you enjoy these videos and continues to allow me to make them for you going forward. Being said, if you'd like to help support me a little bit more directly, you can also visit sspgaming.com, where I sell some handmade merch as well as some really cool stuff. You get some cool stuff to wear and enjoy, and I also get 100% of your support, so it's a win-win for both of us. And anyway, thank you so much for supporting me and for watching these videos. Make sure to join us in Discord as well as on Twitch Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern. Links will be down in the description. Have a great day, and thanks again for watching. Hope to see you in the next video. Bye for now.